Welcome back, scholars. The past 2 days we've been taking a look at the war that made America. Previously, you took a look at part 1, the background and setting the stage for war. You took notes on that and listened to this lecture. And then, most recently, yesterday, you took a look at something called Join or Die. Join or Die was a primary source written by Ben Franklin. It was a political cartoon as well as an advertisement and a newspaper article sent out to all the colonies. It spread like wildfire, and people were reading this. It was a mean for Ben Franklin to have the colonies join forces in what would eventually become the French and Indian War. So, since we took a look at that yesterday, let's look at today the specific events of the war and the events of the French and Indian War, as well as what happens as a result of the war. So for today's lesson, this lecture is going to be on parts 2 and 3, and you'll need to set up your notes for parts 2 and 3. Take a moment and pause this video and set up your social studies notebook to include the following for your notes. In 1754, there was a very unknown person that we know as a pretty important fellow, George Washington, and he's responsible for firing the first shots of the French and Indian War. He was 21 years old, inexperienced, and unknown at this time. He was sent to Fort Duquesne, which is in western Pennsylvania, to force out the French because, according to the British, they were trespassing on their territory. Washington and his militia, which is a small group of men who are trained to fight in an emergency, set up something called Fort Necessity. It was there that they set up shop to take on the French. Washington, along with his militia of 115 inexperienced men, attacked Fort Duquesne, a French fort, and they found that they were really outnumbered and very much outpowered by an experienced French military. So eventually they get surrounded and captured. However, they do get released. George Washington was defeated in this particular battle. However, he's known as a hero because he's the one who struck the first blow against the French. So my question for you scholars is, how do we have a hero who actually lost a battle? And I think it comes down to the fact that George Washington was the first person who had the guts to actually attack the French. During the early stages of the French and Indian War, the British colonists fought the French with little help from Britain, financially and physically with military power and materials. However, in 1754, Great Britain appointed someone named General Edward Braddock as commander-in-chief of the British forces. His job was to force out those French that were impeding on that contested area, the Ohio River Valley. In this video, I want you just to quickly look at how the British are fighting. as you can see, the British are wearing brightly red colored uniforms. They fought in a line and they marched towards their enemy. Well, you can only imagine what this would be like, literally walking across an open field just waiting for your enemy to fire at you. The French also fought similarly to the British style until they joined forces with the Native Americans, and it was then that their style and their tactic changed dramatically. 1 year after Washington was defeated at Fort Duquesne, General Braddock, along with Washington, once again returned to fight the French. The French this time joined forces with the Native Americans and fought entirely differently. They weren't fighting in a single row like we witnessed in that video. Native Americans and the French ambushed the British, and they took over through what we call guerrilla warfare. And as we mentioned before, those bright red uniforms, well, that didn't really help them because they are easy targets in the woods, not easily camouflaged. In this battle, General Braddock was killed, along with 1,000 of the 1,400 British troops. Washington escaped after 2 horses were shot out from underneath of him, and when he returned back to Virginia, he found that he had 4 bullet holes in his coat. It was then that George Washington was known as even more of a leader, and he's growing in reputation. He's now a legend because he's remembered as the man who could not be killed. After losing some battles and losing quite a bit of men, in 1756, the war is officially going to begin, and the British are going to hire another man to take the place of General Braddock. This time, they hire someone named William Pitt. He takes over as a means to try to win the war. Pitt was an excellent planner and an excellent military leader. He was fantastic at appointing new leaders to win battles. And he did just that. He won a string of victories which eventually won the war. But this came at a cost. William Pitt, in his attempts to just win the wars and win the battles, didn't deal too much with the colonies, and instead of asking them to front the cost of the war, he single-handedly decided that Great Britain would pay for supplies that are needed in the war, at no matter the cost. So, because William Pitt wanted to win so badly, he ran up an enormous debt for the British, and as a result of that, he won, but it also came at a price. In 1763, the Treaty of Paris was signed, and this meant that the French were no longer allowed to occupy the territory that they once had. The French territory now is very small, and the British is going to gain a substantial amount of land. Let's take a look at this map. You can see in 1763 that now most of Britain is going to occupy Northern America. So before, it was just that British colony. If you look at that red line, that small little area was primarily British control. After the Treaty of Paris in 1763 and after the French and Indian War, the British is going to obtain a large amount of land. Take a look at this and you can see a little bit more closely the pre-war boundaries and the post-war boundaries. And again, you can see that the British are going to occupy a whole lot of land, and the French, unfortunately, because they lost that war, don't have nearly as much. All right, so this is going to conclude our part 2 portion of our notes for today. I'd like for you to work out this timeline of events and see if you can figure out what happened first, second, third, and so forth. You just simply need to click and drag within the document itself, or you can write this down on a piece of paper. That's totally fine as well. We're going to pause the video now, give you an opportunity to do that, and I'll create a third part video which you will listen to as well.